Welcome to Today in Vilcabamba. I'm Carlos Favara with my guest, Kal Sellers. This is the second interview, and we're going to talk about protein. Kal, I told you that I'm used to eating meat and I'm used to eating tuna, and today we just had lunch, and I opted not to go into my tuna binge because you explained to me that tuna, bottom line, is actually taking more from my body than it's giving me. Can you explain the scientific facts behind that powerful statement?
I sure can. The basic idea is that the way the human body uses protein is actually to combine exactly what it needs from little building blocks of protein called amino acids. And those amino acids are put together in the proteins you eat, whether it's animal flesh or in your case, you're eating tuna. And what your body has to do in order to get those amino acids and use them as it needs to is actually break them down first. And then it has to recombine them into the combinations it actually needs. Now, there are a couple of issues there. One of them is if you could get all of the amino acids you need without having to break them down first, that would require less energy from your body. And in fact, the most energy draining thing that you ever do is digestion. It's not hiking up the mountain up here. It's not just walking through the day. The most energy depleting thing you do all day is digestion. So if we can limit the amount of work your digestion is doing, we're going to have a healthier you. We're going to have a person who is stronger, who feels better, can go further, and lives longer.
Has more energy.
Absolutely has more energy. So what we want to take a look at is it possible to get all the amino acids we need without having to break them down? Now, just before I go on to that, let me just say one other thing about breaking them down. When you break down an animal protein, and just a few proteins in the plant kingdom, mostly in beans, then you create byproducts that you cannot use. These are just little chopped off pieces of protein that are not usable to you. And those become clutter that your body then has to eliminate. So now, in addition to doing more work to get the protein, we now have more work to get rid of the protein. So this is all stuff that is taking energy away from your body. So what we found is that in in plant proteins, in all plants there is protein, there are amino acids, and we can get what we need from those plants. There was a study done almost a century ago exploring what amino acids we need. And in this study, they did the study on rats, and they found that rats needed 10 essential amino acids. And for a long time, humans were going to work trying to make sure their diet was full of all 10 essential amino acids. What happened was, a few years later, actually 40 years later, the study was reconducted, but it was conducted on humans. And the goal was to find out what the actual minimum requirement of protein was for humans. And they found out that, in fact, humans only need 8 essential amino acids. And those 8 essential amino acids are found in almost everything. In other words, if you're eating, you're getting them. Now, there are real protein deficiencies, and they aren't just in people who are emaciated, who aren't eating, who aren't getting enough to eat. There are actual protein deficiencies that occur in people who are alive and eating plenty each day. But those protein deficiencies are not because they're not getting it in their diet. It's more often because they're having a problem with what they're getting. And this problem can take 2 or 3 different forms. One form can be that there's something wrong with this person's ability to combine protein. And that takes place in your body. It's manufactured and put together, requires enzymes, and sometimes a piece of what your body needs is missing or not working very well. In other words, you're sick in some way. The second way that it can happen is that you're not digesting the protein. Now, protein is digested primarily in your stomach. And if your stomach is not working like it should, sometimes you could make the proteins once it got into your body, but you're not getting those proteins into your body cells just because you can't digest it. Now, in my experience, that's the most common cause of actual protein deficiencies. And the third possible reason is that the kind of protein you're getting, you actually have a mild allergy to. And those mild allergies we call food reactions. And so I'll use that term maybe interchangeably a little bit with allergy. What I mean is it's a mild allergy that happens to a certain food. And literally you can be allergic to any food. But there are some foods that are more common. So here's what would happen in my practice. I have dealt with a few people who were protein deficient. One of them was a pregnant woman. I've dealt with a fellow who had decided to just eat only plant food, and he had developed a protein deficiency. And in each one of these cases, I did the same thing, and every one of them got completely better. And it didn't take long. It only took about 2 weeks for them to stop having the symptoms of protein deficiency. And in every one of these cases, I actually reduced the amount of protein they were taking in total. What I did, though, is I gave them a diet that was mostly raw. It was